It's in your email, dummy. Christian.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
January's already halfway over.
I feel like it's going slow.
You feel like what?
I feel like it's going slow.
You think?
I don't know. I do.
Apparently.
I've been moving though, so every day is like slow day.
Where are you moving?
My roommate bought a condo, so I moved in with her.
Did she have a good agent?
Yeah, she did. People keep asking me that, like, did you help her? I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't be moving in with her if I did not help her. So,
We would not be friends.
yeah. Cut off.
Cut off. Now we'll give it a couple more minutes.
Morning.
Morning. We got some more people jumping on. Make sure you got your coffee ready.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Oh, Jenny, I love your hair. Super.
She looks like a phoenix.
Yes.
I think it's just the sunlight coming through.
No, I think it's because it's huge.
It's huge and it's bright. It's beautiful.
In a good way.
I got curly hair like my mom.
Do you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, we'll give it 2 more minutes to see who else pops on. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday.
Good morning.
Morning.
Anybody have any good news? New news? Vacation plans?
I'm going to Salt Lake City in February.
Where are you going?
Salt Lake City.
Ooh, nice.
I've never been.
It's
Pretty.
We were there in October.
3 weeks.
Where are you going, Jim?
No, I was
Cancun?
wondering. Oh. Sarah, I was wondering what you're going to do in Salt Lake while you're going.
My aunt is from there, so
Ah.
I'm just gonna go with her for the weekend just because I've never been.
Nice.
She's from there, so hopefully see some cool stuff.
My grandma lives there. You can go see her.
Watch your language.
Uh-oh.
And if you go into a store and say something bad, just blame it on the person next to you. That's what Jared does. Yes, yes, you did.
What?
Yes.
I don't even want to hear the rest of the story. Sounds like it's made up.
I do.
No. We were at the grocery store trying to get.
We're not sharing the whole story.
I'll tell you later.
It's not that good, Cece.
Oh,
It is actually pretty funny.
Shoot, we'll go ahead and get started. Do a screen share real quick. Here we go. Crafting an offer in today's market. How's everybody feeling out there? Anybody got a buyer under contract, listing active?
No, I have one I need to find a property for desperately.
Desperately.
There's just nothing
Right.
on the market.
Well, that's we got to have the properties in order to get them under contract, right?
Yeah.
Here's the little disclaimer. Thomas, you're on the call, aren't you?
Cutting out.
Thomas, we do have you. Here's my disclaimer for everybody. I'm not an attorney, nor is this legal advice. Seek legal advice before using any of these items or elements we are discussing. If you need help, Thomas is on the team. He's a great guy to reach out to. We might want to have him maybe review all of these and give us some advice. But remember, this is kind of, here's the thing is everybody in our market right now is using these elements, and if they're not, they're usually probably not winning the offers that they're trying to get. So I think today is really just to kind of help, educate us all on both the buyer and the seller side. If we receive these elements on the sales side, we need to know how they work, but also on the buy side, we need to know kind of what the incentive is and how they can benefit our buyers is really what we're here to chat about today. So here's what I've got is buyer thresholds at educating market activity. I guess as far as it goes, benefits and dedication to the purchasing of a home. I think that's a big one I think if we've all been out there with a buyer, sometimes it's tough to get them to consider some of these elements, but that's because they haven't lost a property yet. They aren't quite dedicated to the process, nor what it really takes to get something under contract these days. But also they're kind of a little scary. So I think that the, maybe educating the benefits, ensuring that we have their dedication in actually purchasing the home is imperative. But if we can't describe these elements, it's even going to be more difficult for them to understand them. What happens if we can describe these accurately and eloquently? What do we usually get from our buyer? I'm going to say increased confidence. right? If we can share these, whether or not they understand them, they'll at least believe that we understand them, right? And I think that's more important than anything is we need to make sure they understand them, but also we need to make sure we understand them. Things that we need to ensure as far as our buyers' thresholds is max purchase price and consideration, right? What are they actually willing to go up to? What are they capable of going up to? Terms and dates that work best for them. And then here's the elements we're going to review today is ask them if they've considered these possible elements if needed. Do they understand market activity these days? Do they understand what a buyer contingency is? Do they understand what post-closing occupancy agreements are? Do they understand what an early acceptance bonus might be? Escalation clauses, as-is clauses, appraisal gaps, buyer pays title and closing costs, leveraging earnest money, backup contracts, listing agent advice and seller thresholds, lender support and funding strength, love letters, tight dates and deadlines, and packaging it all together. So that's really what we plan to cover today. I'll send this out at the end of our meeting just so everybody has a hard copy of it. If anybody has any additional questions, you can always reach out to me. Once again, Thomas is on the call. He's a great resource, licensed attorney in Colorado, and actually can help, you know, with any of these clauses and making sure they're incorporated accurately. Here we go. First step, let's go with market activity. Here's the last 7 days. I pulled this yesterday. What do we see in the last 7 days for our market? Anybody want to call anything out?
A lot of pending transactions.
We got 1,500 pending transactions in the last 7 days. 1,500 properties went under contract. How many did we get in the last 7 days? How many new properties did we get in the last 7 days?
549.
Almost a third the number of properties are available than went under contract. Does it feel like you don't have any properties to pick from?
Yes.
Remember, these 549 properties also include mountain properties. You know, I mean, they include, you know, northern Colorado, sometimes down in the Springs and down south. So this isn't just Denver metro area that are on this list, right? If it feels like you can't find any properties for your client, it's usually because there's not many to be had. Are we willing to go show properties each day is kind of where I'm at with some of my clients. If a property pops up, I'm going to look at it that day. Anybody else in that same boat?
Yep.
Yep. I showed clients, the Smiths, I showed them 14 days in a row. And we finally got it under contract on the 14th day. Did I want to show properties 14 days in a row? Yes. Because I wanted the contract, right? Imagine if I had to wait 14 weekends because I didn't do it every day. Oh, well, let's go out on the weekend. Let's go out on the weekend. No, let's go out Tuesday. Let's go out Wednesday. Let's go out Thursday. Every day there was a property, we'd go look at it. Where do we see opportunities on this?
Back on market.
Bombs.
I would say back on markets. Here's 151 properties that fell out. Right, price decreases. Here's 290 properties that didn't get scooped up in their opening weekend, couple weekends in. Are we shopping the price decreases? And are we shopping back on markets? Can we set a search just for back on market properties?
Yep.
Right. I think that we need to be looking in these opportunities, the price decreases and the back on markets. Why are we seeing price increases? It's always the same answer, but anybody, can you tell us why we're seeing them?
Properties that go back on the market.
Properties that go back on the market, but why would we see the price increase, Darla?
Because they went under contract for over asking.
There you go. Went under contract for over asking, and what do they still want to be?
Over asking.
They're pretty straightforward. Any other opportunities? Anybody see anything that's kind of strange? Here's what I thought was strange. There's only 79 properties withdrawn. I think the reason we're not seeing many of the withdrawals or expireds really is only because the sellers that are on the market, who's selling their house right now in this market? Are they testing the market? Are sellers testing our market? No.
Yes.
No, they're not testing the market anymore. I think a lot of sellers in the past, they were testing the market. Oh, let's see if I can get it. I don't think people are doing it. If we have sellers on the market, they want to sell.
Well, and they're also getting it. Unlike before, I saw a condo a couple days ago listed at 360, did comps on it, and nothing in the community sold for over 330. So clearly it's overpriced. Clearly it's going to run into appraisal conditions. So I was just curious about that property. It went under contract almost immediately. I mean, sellers are really getting whatever they want in this market right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I think that we have to be prepared for that on the actual sales side, on the listing side too. I think this is a good thing. Can we share these stats with our buyers? Yes or no?
Yes.
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 When should we share them with them? After we've lost a bunch of properties or before we even start looking and writing offers?
Before.
Or
I think before. I think this helps frame the understanding. If we have 500 new and we have 1,500 under contract, it's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. It's not us. Here's why I like data is it's not me sharing an opinion, right? It's me sharing data.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy, huh? Is it going to help them understand when we start describing, incorporating some of these elements here, is that not going to help support why we need to use those elements?
yes.
I think so. I think starting out with this and reminding them what kind of activity we have is really what's imperative. Did anybody see the stats lately? I think Britt, you had told me that you were watching the news. What were the stats on inventory?
Gosh, it was just last night. They were saying inventory's down 40% from 2019 to 2020. And then through 2020, what was it? It was higher than I was anticipating. I think it was 12%.
Right, 12% increase.
In sales price.
So we have a 40%, and we could use an easy number, 50% inventory reduction. We have a 50% inventory reduction. What's driving the contracts right now? What's driving under the pendings?
No inventory.
No inventory. Interest rates.
High demand.
High demand.
High demand.
Right. Do we not have? What was that?
I was just going to say a lot of first-time home buyers, a lot of people wanting to get out of apartments. I had a lot of clients last year reach out to me who have condos and don't have yards. They're like, I need a backyard. I'm losing my mind.
Well, you can't rent for what you can buy for with interest rates so low, right? Why would you spend $2,000, $3,000 a month when you can purchase at $2,000 to $3,000 a month? $3,000 a month with their interest rates can still buy you a $500,000 house, right? I think that we need to be using the stats and education, really to help fuel our buyers. But I think this will help, give them a frame of mind. And not only that, what happens if we lose a few contracts? How defeating is it to our buyers? It's pretty tough. I think them anticipating us losing a couple offers and really having to put ourselves in a strong position is where we're kind of help ourselves. And also then it doesn't look like we are dropping the ball. Like we, didn't help them get the property. It's just the market. It is what it is. It's not me, it's actually the market. And not only that, if you want to, we have to be competitive. Is everybody using these in our market? Yes or no?
Yep.
I would
Not
say
everybody.
no. I would say not everybody. And that's why we have to incorporate these elements to help separate ourselves from other people. Buyer contingencies. Anybody have a contingent buyer out there? Right. I'm closing mine on Friday. Here's some questions with buyer contingencies. Is the property under contract and set to close already? And if it's not, how many sellers want to accept something that's not under contract and ready to close? Not many, right? Do you have photos and are you set to even list the property? Oh no, we're not on the market. We haven't even taken photos yet. I say this every time I have a contingent buyer. Every time I've got a contingent buyer, I tell them, hey, we have to get your home photo ready. Once I have the photos, we can shop. But if we don't have the photos, I don't have time to write the offer, get it accepted, get photos, and get it listed.
Well, with the coming soon extended to a week, that gives you another 4 or 5 days to market it without it being on the market.
Right. Right. You know, it's tough. It's tough with a contingent buyer because we can't sell their house without identifying the replacement home. And if we're having a tough time getting offers accepted, it's even more difficult to know when to list their house. Right?
Yeah.
I think this is an imperative one. Do we have photos and are we ready to actually list? I tell them every time, hey, let's not even start writing offers till we have those photos. Not only that, once we have a house that's photo ready, we get the photos, you can go back to living in the house. You don't have to keep it immaculate anymore. Make it perfect once, get me the photos. Once we have the photos, go back to living in it. Has your client, it's supposed to be depersonalized the property and is set for photos? Are they actually depersonalizing the property and getting it ready for photos? Does your client have to work on the property before you get the photos ready for listing? Do they have stuff they need to repair? Is there paint needs to be completed? Is there stuff that needs enhancement work? If so, you've got probably more work than you think. Do we have time to do enhancements while we're writing offers? Nope. I think it goes right back to this one. Do we have the photos in hand and ready to list? Here's some considerations. Have you sent them a net estimate and prepared them with the financing options that work best for them? Does anybody remember what the knock program was that we talked about? Somebody describe knock. Anybody?
It's a lending program.
I like it, Andrea. What's the specific benefit to using knock or even First Bank's bridge loan options?
They'll have the money in hand to buy their replacement home before their home sells.
Exactly. So they're basically, they're able to actually purchase without selling first. In a contingent situation, the property has to be under contract and set to sell, receive the funds in order to purchase. Knock and First Bank have both options to where they can get set for financing, they can purchase their home, and then sell at a later date. I think these are huge and imperative when we have contingent situations. Is this something that we want to ensure that our buyers are taking advantage of? I think absolutely.
Yes.
I'm closing on my deal on Friday. It's a contingent situation where I could not get my client to work with First Bank to get set up. No, I want to use my friend Melissa. Awesome. Guess what we got last night, which is 2 days before closing? We finally got a clear to close. Right? It was ridiculous. Everybody's stressing, everybody's crying, right? It's 8:30 and we're chasing a clear to close. And then finally the lender said, she keeps saying, the underwriter's in the file. I asked her, I was like, what underwriter is in a file at 8:30 at night? Who works till 8:30, and especially an underwriter? I think being prepared in advance with these scenarios is what would help escape the contingency. You can remove your contingency if you work with knock or First Bank. Do we know here's the other one. Do we understand what the net estimate? Are we preparing net estimates for our contingent buyers? Do they know what kind of proceeds they're going to be working with and what the financing actually looks like? Traditional contingent sales financing, we have to be prepared. Giving those net estimates and working with the finance company, I think is what will help us. But setting up these two scenarios, it makes it a lot more streamlined. It might have additional carrying costs, because may have two properties. But if we do the right thing, we can line up both their closings, their buy and their sale, within weeks, if not within the day. Mine are both closing on the same day. My buyer is selling their house at 10 a.m. in the morning, and they're buying their next one at noon. And I'm having the mobile notaries go to their house and do both of their closings within 2 hours. Right?
I think you have to put on post-closing occupancies on there as well.
And that's exactly what we have is we have a month post-close occupancy. So they have a month to move out of their house and into the new house, which gave them a huge amount of benefit. Do they need a month to move out? No, but I gave them more than enough time. Thanks for pointing that out, Jim. Always
there for you.
I knew it. So sales contingencies, the Smiths need to sell their home before closing. However, the property is under contract and is past inspection. How often are we able to be under contract and past inspection? In this market, I wouldn't recommend it. What would we have to do if we were already this far? What would the buyers already know on the property that you're selling?
That it's contingent upon them finding a replacement.
There you go. Which could be an open-ended date. So if we have buyers that are okay with sitting there and waiting until we find a property, identify and close, this is an okay scenario. How many buyers are willing just to hang out and wait while we go shop for a property? I would say if they want the property.
A lot of them, considering how many buyers are looking right now.
Is that one of those things that maybe purchase price is less important than this contingency? And I think that that's exactly what I prepare my buyers with. Hey, when we list your property, we need a flexible buyer, not just the highest price. We need a buyer that'll hang out and wait and realize that and when we got my clear to close for this, my closing Friday, we have a contingency the buyers can't buy unless we sell. If we didn't get the clear to close and didn't get funded, guess who doesn't get the home? Our buyers. They've been sitting there for 6 weeks already. How much money did they spend on inspections and appraisals and everything else? I think buyer flexibility is huge on a buyer contingency. Here's more standard contingency verbiage. Here's this one. The Smiths need to sell their home before closing. The contract allows the seller to continue to market the property until the Smiths are under contract. If the Smiths are not under contract by blank date, the sellers can terminate. The Smiths are listing tomorrow and expected a quick sale. They are listing for blank, which, I'm gonna move my screen. Oops. Which we expect to see a very competitive price in the area. The average days on market is 8 days. Does this help the seller understand that you know what we're looking at, how many days we're looking at getting it? But not only that, it gives them an out if we can't get it under contract by a certain day.
Sure it does.
Sure. I think that this is what will help support us getting these contingent offers accepted. The one that I have right now that's closing this week, when we wrote our offer, I was the only contingent offer against 3 other offers, and we still got accepted.
Why didn't you use knock? Come on.
The price point's too high. So knock has a limit. You can only purchase up to 700, and it didn't work for this scenario. I also couldn't get him to get off of her friend Melissa that drug her feet and made this a giant pain in the butt, but I'm not going to talk about that. Buyer contingencies are super tough these days. This goes back to ensuring that we're utilizing knock and First Bank. If you're over those thresholds of $700,000 purchase price, First Bank is your best option because there's no threshold, there's no limits. They leverage your equity and they'll help you get financed with a non-contingent purchase. What do we think about seller actively marketing the property? How does that look? How does that feel? If it was my seller, I'd absolutely actively market the property.
Yeah.
Pending accepting backups is what the MLS wants. What happens if we leave it active? Is it allowed? Are we allowed to leave a property active if it's under contract?
Yes.
Yes? No?
MLS does not abide by DORA rules.
Jim, I love you, man. That's exactly how I feel. Dora tells us what? We have to do what's best for our client, not what's best for the MLS. But what happens if we get caught with an active property that's under contract? What's the repercussion?
Is there a fine associated?
Maybe a fine. You might get fined, right? But what's more important, for us to stay active and continue to market the property, or for us to do what's best for the MLS? I think that it's for us to do what's best for our client. I do and have actively marketed as an active property and accepted showings the whole time because it was best for my client, anticipating getting a fine from the MLS. Not only that, I had some little sporty agent tell me, "You're breaking the rules. I'm going to tell on you." I don't care, dude. You're not DORA. You're not the state. You can't take my license. The MLS can't ground me. I think we have to do what's best for our clients.
Well, I have to admit, as a buyer's agent, though, when I do that, I put in their verbiage that they say they will go pending, if it's not a contingent offer, of course, because I don't want the seller to get antagonistic if they get a higher offer than ours as a backup.
Well, and remember, even if you get a higher offer seller, we can't kick out the buyer. We have to let them elect to cancel the contract themselves.
True, but when it comes up to the inspection, okay, got several items that seem to be, the roof leaks, if I have a higher offer, as a seller, I'm not going to do anything.
Well, and
Puts it back on the buyer.
And that's exactly it. Leveraging those backup offers. We're going to chat about that. I think that's a huge thing. But also we have to remind our sellers sometimes that, hey, remember those defects, those material defects that we now know of, we have to disclose them. So you're going to be encountering this same situation, even with your higher offer. It is up to our sellers and it is up to our buyers. All we can do is educate. But I absolutely understand your point, Jim. It's tough. I mean, really, all sellers want highest price. I mean, it's about making money. And not always, but most times. Let's chat about post-closing occupancy agreements. What are the benefits to the seller for a post-closing occupancy agreement? Extra time in the home. Let's close on your house and let's have you stay there for 30 days, 60 days, whatever works best. I've actually had a seller give my buyers a 6-month no cost post occupancy.
What?
Right? Done. We'll take it. We actually had to move in early because they couldn't buy the property, couldn't get financed, and basically they became his no cost renter.
Well, it also allows the seller time to find that new home.
That's exactly it.
Competitive
The seller
market.
now has the funds and avoids the contingency and can go find their home. They've closed on the property. They have their money in their pocket. If I've got a 60-day post-doc, now we've got the time to go out and shop non-contingent. Elements to consider to protect your buyer. Number of days that you're allowing the sellers to stay there. Morning, Matt. Do we have a limit on the number of days that the sellers can stay in their home post-occupant?
If you're using just a PCOA, it's just 60 days.
They want 60 days, no more, right? If it's
But
past that,
you can do a lease.
there you go. If it's past that, I would encourage them to do a lease.
How do lenders feel about that? I thought they have an issue with more than 60 days.
Don't tell them if it's a primary.
Well, who pays for the insurance too?
Well,
As a non-owner, you can't put in full homeowner's insurance on it.
and I think that's the sticky situation. I would stick to the 60-day rule. If it's anything outside of that, we kind of have to wash our hands of it. We can help frame a 60-day. Anything past that is between the buyer and the sellers themselves, the tenant and the occupant.
Hey, Jared, I have a question.
I'm ready, Debbie.
So I have a PCOA currently right now just for 7 days, and my seller just wanted to maintain their homeowner's insurance, but they can't because they no longer own the home. So they absolutely have to switch to the renter policy, correct?
Exactly. And it's dirt cheap. I
I know, it's like $18.
For a month. Like, come on, it's nothing. It costs nothing. Renters and liability insurance. What happens if somebody gets hurt on the move out? What happens if somebody slips on ice? What happens if they damage the property when moving out? What happens if it gets flooded because they turned off the heat and the pipes break? I would say insurance is imperative. If you're doing your post occupancy, if you don't include insurance, it's a detriment to your buyer. And then who also becomes liable if it's not in that agreement?
You.
The agent.
Me. Does anybody want to get sued after the fact because we didn't put the right elements in? I don't.
Can I add something on that insurance?
Yeah, we can hear you, Thomas.
As far as hazard insurance, the last thing you want is two policies covering one loss event. Because at that point, the insurance companies are going to say it's that guy's responsibility. And it's never land. Nothing's getting fixed unless it's coming out of somebody's pocket. And it is a nightmare.
Here's another thing about the insurance that I want to touch on. When are these renters and liability insurance policies delivered?
At closing.
At closing. Oh, no, we got insurance. Great. Let's friggin' see it. Let's see it before closing. If we get to closing and we don't have the insurance policies for our buyers to review and have, are we helping protect them?
Nope.
Nope. Can I tell you that I have insurance and not have insurance? Yep. Do you want to find out later that they don't actually have it? Nope.
Nope.
I think that this is imperative for us, not only to ensure that it's included, but that the actual evidence of the insurance coverage was provided at or before the time of closing. No cost or cost per day for the post-closing occupancy agreement. Somebody asked this question. Well, what's an average post-closing, per day? What do I charge per day? Does anybody have an easy go-to rule for what do you charge per day?
I always divide the estimated mortgage payment by 30.
Easy.
And that's exactly what I do.
That's exactly what we all should be doing. Hey, their mortgage payment is $3,000 a month divided by 30, $100 a day, super straightforward. Can we charge, what do you got, Darla?
Nothing.
Nothing, okay. Can we charge more? Can we charge less? Can we do a no cost?
Sure.
Absolutely. Yep. What's the incentive to a no cost post occupancy in this market?
Put you ahead of someone else's offer.
Totally. What if we don't have the funds to keep pushing price? What if we don't have the funds to increase an appraisal gap? We don't need the funds to do a no cost post occupancy. We already know that we have how many days without a mortgage payment.
I had a offer put in, and the terms from the listing agent were the more generous PCOA will be considered higher.
There you go. So just because sometimes we don't understand the terms doesn't mean that it doesn't help. So a no cost post occupancy doesn't necessarily affect your buyer enough, but increasing purchase price by $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 is going to be a pretty big impact. Who gets to tell you who can help guide the post occupancy conversation? Who do you need to get this info from?
What, the lender?
Agent.
The listing agent. How important is a post occupancy? It's not. It's vacant. Oh shoot! I guess I could have figured that one out. If the property's vacant, they don't need a post occupancy agreement. If they've got kids and they've got little ones, they got to find a replacement home. That might induce needing an extended and a no cost post occupancy. Here's another part: is early move out. How do they distribute the funds? Do we give the funds back to the individual if we did charge? That's something that we have to decide. If you didn't charge anything, there's no funds to distribute if they move out early. A security deposit. Anybody have any thoughts on security deposits?
I have the title.
Every time.
You have
Every
the title,
time.
Debbie?
I have the title company hold it, and now I find out they actually charge a fee to do that.
They're not supposed to.
But they do, land does. But honestly, I think it's worth it because I just think things could go really wrong if the buyer or the seller holds it. It's going to be a hot mess.
Hot mess. I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of security deposits because then when we have them, the buyer starts getting pouty. Oh,
Yeah.
well, you did this. Well, you scratched that. Well, you did this. Ah, crap. What are we going to do now? If Mario was on the call, I'd call him out. He had a great scenario where they had a post-occupancy agreement. How do we evaluate the condition of the property post-move out? And what they did was they required the seller to get an inspection of the property, and the condition had to match the same condition that was when the buyer did their inspection. Darla, you shook your head.
Yeah, that's a can of worms.
Well, if you've got a difficult situation where we don't know how to determine the condition, how are we going to do it? We also know if we find ourselves in a situation, hey guys, now I have to encourage you to go to mediation.
Now,
Mediation.
I would recommend that during your walkthrough, you take a video of the whole place. That's how I want the place to look. That's how I bought it.
Well,
You
I'll
know,
give you
because the movers can, you know, I've seen them, bang up the walls. I've seen them, destroy a garage door
right.
with the truck.
Well, so here's one that I actually just finished dealing with. I've got a wonderful clients, Will and Kate. Will is an engineer and one of the most difficult, whiny people I've ever met in my entire life. Right? Whines about everything. Right? The seller has the post occupancy. They're supposed to get the property. The seller moves out of the property, and ironically decided to not disclose that there's a hole in the floor this big through the hardwood floors into the basement that they were running cables down into. And then as soon as they move their stuff out, guess what the buyers find? Now a giant hole in the middle of their floor that they were running cables through that they had hidden. When we approached the sellers, guess what they said? Oh, we forgot. We didn't realize that it was there. What? You pulled cables out of it. How did you not know that that was there? So now we had to figure out how we were going to settle the dispute of A, non-disclosure, and then how do we remedy it? So I think anything we can do to help with the security deposit situation. I personally don't want to get involved in it, right? I can't help too many times, and usually you have to go to mediation if it becomes too big of an issue anyway. The cost of mediation is $250 to start, and I think maybe $125 an hour after that. I think that we have to educate both our buyers and our sellers about what this looks like and how they have to navigate it, post-closing. Any extra thoughts on post-closing occupancy agreements? When do
If you do get if you get a security deposit, how much do you get?
Good question. I think it depends on the purchase price of the home. I think it depends on the actual buyers themselves dictate this. So I do not advocate for a security deposit. I ask them, hey, you have the right to receive a security deposit, can be held by you and can also be held by the title. Britt, I know this wasn't a post-closing security deposit, but what happened when the buyers gave your sellers a check at closing and your sellers went to go, your sellers went to go cash the check? What did the buyers do?
The sellers canceled the check. So they bought like personal property with the home outside of the contract. And then when they got possession of the house was in pretty rough shape with a lot of just trash, debris, leftover furniture left behind. So they canceled the check for the personal property.
And this is the same thing for security deposit. If you receive a check at closing and the buyer's supposed to hold this check and the seller cancels the check, you still don't have a security deposit, right?
I've had situations where they do cash the check so that it is cashed. I mean, when you move in somewhere and you give a security deposit, they deposit that check and then they reimburse you afterward.
If there is a security deposit, I'd have title hold it if they will. And if they won't, then the buyer has to. Some title companies won't even hold it. Just because it's in the contract that the title company will hold it doesn't mean that they will hold it. No. Right? Security deposits are tough. Here's my question about post-closing occupancy agreement. When is this delivered and when is it signed?
With the contract.
With the contract.
With the contract. Matt Portolano, you helped sell a house. When did the agent hit you up to get a post-occupancy contract signed?
I think it was like 2 days before closing.
Nope. Bye-bye.
Yeah. And he wanted like
put it in the contract,
full reimbursement for 30 days.
Well, and so here's the actual kicker. Does it benefit your buyers to have the post-occupancy? Yes, because it includes the liability insurance, the renter's policy insurance. It also includes the number of days that they can stay in the house, right? So there are elements that protect your buyers because you do want those. But if it's not signed and you come to my buyers to get one signed 2 days before closing and you want it to be no cost and my people want it to be at a cost, we're in kind of a tough situation here. I think the terms have to be negotiated up front, and it has to be signed at the date of signatures of the actual contract. That way,
Well, and that can also make or break your offer as well.
Make or
So
break your offer.
if this person over here doesn't have a post occupancy and you do, and you don't want one, you're going to go to people that don't have a post doc.
Right.
I would, at least.
I think it has to be delivered, has to be signed at the same day that we go under contract at the beginning of the agreement. I don't want to think about it later. I don't want to chase it. I don't want to renegotiate it. I don't want all the feelings. How many times do we get 3/4 of the way down the road and everybody's pissed at everybody? Most all the time, right? It all feels warm and fuzzy at the beginning. We're all friends, and then we go through inspection and poop and hit the fans. We go through appraisal and it's not appraising for the value, and now everybody's upset, right? Don't leave this item or element to the last minute because it's not going to work out in your favor. Any thoughts? Anything to add? Seller's acceptance bonus. Does anybody know what an acceptance bonus is? Anybody used one? Anybody seen one?
I've heard of it, but I've never used one.
Well, if we read this, basically, long story short, it's saying, hey, I know you want to wait till Monday, but if you're willing to accept our offer, we'll increase it by blank amount. We'll give you an extra $5,000 if you just sign this today. Hey,
I just did that on this last offer I got.
What do you got, Jim?
I just did that, a similar item on an offer I just did. We increased our appraisal gap from 5,000 to 10,000 if they accepted it today and didn't go through the weekend. Got it.
Got it. I think this is imperative. A seller's acceptance bonus. Hey, we understand you want to wait till Monday. If the property's occupied, do most sellers want to hang out with the traffic all weekend? No. Crap, we already got over asking. We were expecting the asking price. Let's stop the showings. Is it usually the sellers that are guiding the wait till Monday, or is it us agents that are guiding the wait till Monday?
Agents, for sure.
Agents for sure. Sellers usually like, hey, we already got it. Let's just take it. No, let's wait. Let's get 65 offers.
Well, and that's what we did with our house. Like, we got that first full price offer, and I was like, we can wait all weekend and get more, but I'm done. I'm done traveling with the dogs. I'm done moving. I'm just accept this offer and move on.
Right. And you're an agent. You should have been telling yourself to wait till Monday.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even follow.
Yeah, and I was like, nope. No, we're not.
Well,
we're not doing it.
I think that's a great point that Matt makes is even if the agent says, hey, we're waiting till Monday, do you want to be the agent that waits till Sunday and finds out they accepted one on Saturday? Or do you want to be the agent that got yours in first, came in hot and heavy, gave them everything they wanted, and included something like a seller's acceptance bonus?
Well, by the same token, do you want to be the first agent who is putting an offer in, then they come back and say, oh, we're waiting till Monday? Well, then you just become bait for the agent to go fishing.
Here's my thoughts. I'd rather come in first and hope to establish loyalty and maintain communication and maintain our interest in the property as opposed to becoming one in the stack. Right? I totally understand what Jim's saying with being leveraged. If we come in heavy and strong and we get leveraged the whole way, we could get leveraged out. What's that, Andrea?
I was just gonna say, my mantra is always be the first and make yourself memorable on the phone call.
Totally.
Yep.
Totally. I'm the agent's best friend at the very beginning, and then things change for some reason. Just kidding, Darla. Don't shake your head, Darla.
I'm on Team Darla with this argument.
I did the same. I did the same thing though. I got my little condo buyer under contract last month because I was the first one in, and then I just called her and I kept checking in and I kept saying, and they were going to wait until Monday, and she finally called me and said, if you can come in at this price, we'll take it today.
There
So
you
we
go.
got it.
And that's exactly it. I think opening that communication and ensuring that we stick with it, and then continue to educate our buyers as to where they're at. Hey guys, it sounds like we got to go to here. Let's re-up. Let's resubmit. Crap, they got higher. Let's resubmit. I think this early acceptance, the seller acceptance bonus, is huge and is one of the newer techniques that isn't being utilized very, very commonly. If your seller, like Matt, didn't want his house torn apart, walked through, pulling the dogs out and everything else, is this not something that you would love to see in an offer?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Good point.
Oh, we got the runaround like when we were buying our house too, because we were the first ones in, and then they leveraged our offer to get a couple more.
Did
So I was
you
like,
get the house?
Yeah, we got the house, but I had to blow all the other offers out of the water.
There you go.
Matt, your house is so nice though.
I like
Good
it. It's a lot better than last place.
You got a hell of a deal. Hell of a deal.
Can I ask?
We did.
Yes, CC, what do you got?
Oh no. Well, as a new agent, I don't really understand the term when you guys are talking about getting leveraged out.
So leveraging in a sense that, hey, I just got CC's offer at 400. Hey, other people that are getting ready to submit, you got to be better than the 400. I'd recommend 425.
Okay.
Right?
Mhm.
So leveraging it, only taking that and putting it at the top. As soon as you get a new one, leverage that one. As soon as you get a new one, leverage that one.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we're leveraging the price and the terms of each of these to try and get the best scenario for our client.
Okay. Thanks.
If we're not
That's a big-
leveraging it as a seller's agent, are we doing the best service for our client?
So is that legal though?
What would be
Is that
illegal?
Only
legal
if you
by
have
the listing
permission
agent?
from your sellers.
There you go.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
If I get an offer at 425 and another agent calls up and says, hey, what kind of action do you have on it? It's like, well, I have offers north of 425. That's not legal.
Why
It's
is it?
in the listing agreement. It's
But
actually in the
Dora
listing
says
You'd have to have
can't.
permission from your sellers to just
Yeah,
to
it's
disperse that
legal.
Dora
information.
doesn't, isn't it Dora that says you can't tell specific amounts on offers?
Nope.
That's up to the seller. I
And
mean,
it's in the
seller
listing
says
agreement.
you-
Well,
Remember?
then it's in their best interest to do that.
Right. And that's what we should be telling the agents that say, oh, I can't tell you that. It's actually in the best interest of your seller if you do tell me that. I'm going to come
Right.
in with the best offer if you tell me where you're at.
Because I was always, I mean, I've been doing this almost 20 years, and I was always told you can't tell what another offer is.
So
To
in the
another
listing
agent.
agreement, it specifically says that you have the permission of the seller to share any competing offers. And I
Mhm.
think we have to utilize that. And not only that, I'll give you a prime example. I have a listing that we listed at 475, and I told everybody who called me, right? Here's the thing. Do I want 15 offers or do I want 5 strong offers?
5 strong.
I want 5
If you got
strong.
15, you underpriced the property.
Well, and not only that, now I've got even more work to try and organize, filter, and sift. And I have to present all offers, right? I can't just present the best 5. I got to present all 15. So what I did was I said 475 was the asking price. When somebody called, I said, hey, we're looking to get at or above 500. Whoever gets in here and brings it to us first will probably be accepted because that's where my sellers are shooting for. I help frame it up front.
Now, I could see that, but what I'm saying is, okay, Jared, you submit me an offer at 450. I go up to Matt, who's my buddy, and saying, hey, Matt, you got an offer that's lower than mine. Our highest offer is at 450. Come in at 451, and you got it.
Well, it's still the seller has to accept it, but I think that it's absolutely okay. I think that we absolutely with the support of our sellers that we can absolutely share that information. And not only should we should tell our sellers that it's imperative that we do. I see where you're saying, Jim, that I'll tell you this. Austin Rosenthal, I don't know why I use his last name, but Austin and Josh had a scenario where Josh was the listing agent. and told Austin where the other offers were. Well, the other agent that lost filed a complaint, and guess who got investigated by Dora? Josh and Austin. Right?
You bet.
Yep. But also, guess what happened? Nothing.
Really?
Nothing happened to Josh and Austin because there was nothing unethical about it. There was nothing that they did that caused the seller to decide this. It was the seller's decision, and the offer that was presented by Austin was actually stronger than the other one. So yes, we can receive the complaint. Yes, we can be investigated. But if we're being ethical and we're doing it the right way, it'd be one thing if we weren't telling the other people, oh, I can't disclose that, and then I do disclose it to one party. That would be where we're crossing the line. Any thoughts or any ideas about the seller's acceptance bonus?
Love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I think
So
it's
you put that right in the
additional
provisions.
Yep,
Okay.
Section 32. Yep.
What's the difference between this and escalator clause other than capping it out?
Well, I think the difference is no waiting. This is inducing a sense of urgency. This is inducing us being accepted up front and not hanging out and playing the escalation game.
Well, and there's a lot of agents that won't accept an escalation clause too.
I'm one of them. Give me the high price. And not only that, if you share an escalation clause with me, you just told me where your buyers will go anyway. And you know what I'll do as a listing agent? I'll have my sellers send you guys a counter offer first with the price that you
go there.
Hey, if you want it, now sign it, right? If you give me an escalation clause, I will leverage your escalation clause to you alone. I don't think escalation clauses are helpful. I think it puts all the cards on the table and it I don't know. We'll talk about it here in a minute. We're going to cover that. Oh, well, son of a gun, here it is. Escalation clause.
You planned that.
What are the odds? So escalation clause, things to consider. Buyer's escalation threshold. What's their max? What's the threshold for that purchase price? What's the increments that they'll go up? Is $1,000 over a bona fide over the other offers? Is that enough of an incentive for most people?
Not.
Meh, $1,000. Meh. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars here. I think it needs to be kind of a 2,500, 7,500, $1,500 at least, $1,750. But $1,000 or $1,001 is kind of minute. And especially when we consider other things like post-occupancy agreements. No close post-oc might be a better benefit than your $1,000 increase. I help frame this if we even consider escalation clauses, which I won't. I'm the type of agent that if my buyer wants the property and I talk to the agent and the agent says, hey, we're looking for 500, I don't say, hey guys, let's go in at 475 and maybe escalate to 500. No. Hey guys, you want the property? Yeah, go to 500. How long does it take us to recoup a $25,000 increase in our market? What's the appreciation rate of our market? And not only that, if we keep getting beat out on all these properties and you found the perfect home, why would we lose it?
Right.
It's not like I don't remember who it was. Matt, I think it was your client where you had the listing and the buyer had no competition. Nobody else submitted an offer and they came in above asking price.
Yeah.
What did I tell you when they came in over asking price? I was like, dude, it's not.
I can't remember right now.
I was like, it's not going to stick. Why would a buyer be okay with going over asking price when they're not in a competitive situation? Buyers don't do that. Agents do that.
Right. Oh, the eager agent issue.
Eager agents are willing to spend their clients' money, and even if it's unnecessary. So I think it's a balance between not being the eager agent, but actually identifying what's best for the client. Escalation clause, the thing that you got to understand is what's the threshold? How much are they willing to go above any other offer? Next one, what's their max purchase price? What's the max that you're actually willing to go to? If you're willing to go to 500, let's give them the 500. You're going to recoup the appreciation within months of our market. Proof
You
of
know,
competing.
Jared, I have to tell you, you know, my client was feeling desperate in this last offer. We did the escalation on the appraisal gap. That's what got us our acceptance. But he was ready to jump up to 465 from 450. And I said, hold off, let's see if this escalation works. So in essence, I saved him $10,000 on this. So my client appreciates that, and I've already got another referral at him because of it.
Well, and I think that that's the gamble and the risk that you have to play. We don't know which ones of the, we don't know what will and won't be accepted. So really, doing it worked out in that particular situation, and not doing it in others might not. So there's no crystal ball. There's no way for us to actually know what's going to work or not work. And I'm also the type of guy that asks whether or not you actually want it. If you guys want it, it's the perfect place. And we've been seeing other properties, and this is the one. Let's not lose it. So I love the fact that Jim's being protective and actually watching out for that money and watching out for those dollars. But in our market, the appreciation and the difference in the $10,000, is it worth you losing the property for $10,000? If it is, let's try this route. If it's not worth losing, let's just give them that price.
Well, I could also increase that at any time if that didn't work. So it's an incremental step, but I still had the okay to go up to 465, which I was pretty sure would get it. They were listing 410, so.
And I think that once again, we just don't know, to where, what if somebody comes in high and mighty while we have the escalation, and the sellers just want to accept one. They don't want to keep playing the game. Remember, us agents want to play this game. The sellers don't want to play this game.
Well, that's what I'm hired to do, though.
We're playing.
Okay. Okay.
Competing offers, proof of competing offers. What does that look like, and is it something that's necessary?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll be honest, on the sell side, on my listing side, I'm not playing the game. I'm not going the escalation clause. I'm not going to share the rest of them. I'm going to tell you, if you want to come in at this price. If you don't, I don't care.
Right.
On the buyer side, I think that it is imperative. That's how we can verify and solidify those competing offers. But do they have to give us those offers, and can they just send us a counter without sharing competing offers? Can they send us a counter that doesn't even equate to close to these other offers? Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do whatever we want. How it works in the end, the seller counters the price and terms that are agreed. I think that this is something that I do, and I ask all the time. If I've got a buyer, how come I got an echo?
I don't know.
Killing me.
Someone needs to mute.
It's someone else, yeah. They need to be on mute. Hey Jared,
Yeah.
I will say that I've had better luck not using escalation clause and just increasing my price and using increasing the appraisal gap.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I think, here's what today is about. It isn't one way. This is about crafting an offer. This is about putting together the perfect storm for the individual scenario that we're navigating. We kind of have to adjust these things as we go. We might have a plan. When I talk to my client at the beginning, they start getting competing offers, and we got to change the plan. I like this. If I send an offer, I like asking this every time. Hey, we just sent you an offer. Will you counter us first? Send whatever terms you want, whatever price you want, and let my client decide, because it helps me as the agent. Instead of me saying, client, keep going, keep going, keep going, and I can get the sellers just to say, hey, here's what we want. I can present that. Hey, here's what they want. Do you guys want it? Well, we don't want to go that high. Great, don't sign it. Okay, we're willing to go that high. Perfect, sign it. I ask to be countered first. I want to be countered first. If I submit first, I like being countered first. Can I ask for that courtesy? If I submit first, we'd love to be asked to be countered first. Escalation clause, here's some verbiage. Once again, check in with Thomas before we utilize any of this. Thomas, we're glad you're here. If the buyer if the buyer's offering price is not the highest net current written offer, buyer agrees to pay up to, here's a catchy part, up to blank amount. What happens if you write buyer agrees to pay at least $5,000? What happens then? What's the difference between up to and at least?
There's
Could be thousands of dollars.
Oh shoot! What if it comes in $16,000 low, and you said you'd pay at least $5,000? Oh, look like you're coming in with 16. I was on the sales side where that buyer's agent wrote at least, and guess what we did? Hey, you wrote at least. It ended up we didn't get all of it because we had to keep going back and forth, and we also didn't want them to terminate. But writing up to and not at least, buyer agrees to pay up to this amount more than the highest written non-contingent being a key word in this particular one. A non-contingent competing offer. Buyer agrees to pay up to, where I'm at. Competing net offer up to, but not to exceed. Oh my gosh, I hear myself again. Not to exceed
you know
a
how
purchase.
we feel.
Oh, Jim, I thought you had my back.
Well, I do, but I'm just pointing out the obvious.
Right. That hurt, Jim. That hurt.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jared.
We need to include a max purchase price. If I say they'll pay X amount and I don't include a max purchase price, it becomes ambiguous. It comes limitless. Make sure to include that max purchase price. In the event such competing net offer is 100% cash, buyer agrees to pay up to an increased amount, let's say 10,000 more than such offer, but not to exceed this purchase price. Are there cash offers out there right now?
Yep.
If Allie was on the phone, Allie wrote an offer the other night. Britt, tell us about it because you helped her.
The property brand new on the market was listed at 1.399. Back-to-back showings all weekend. They ended up receiving 11 offers, 4 of which were cash, and it ended up going well above 1.5, so at least $100,000 over list price. Yeah, so 4 cash offers above 1.5. That was surprising too.
So I mean, is this something where maybe the escalation clause could have helped you in that? Helped Allie's client in that scenario. Hey, we're willing to go at least this much over, up to 1.55, 1.6, whatever it may be. There's cash buyers out there. There's cash buyers in the millions. At least 40% of what's being bought and sold is still cash. I think you have to be prepared, I think, to compete against it.
Well, that California money.
You know, they sold their 2-bedroom condo and came out and bought a mansion. Any questions about escalation clauses? Here's the thing is who's going to help guide the escalation clause, and who should we be checking in with on these?
Listing agent.
The listing agent. What if the listing agent won't accept them and doesn't want them? Does it behoove you to put it in there?
Yeah.
Does anybody have kids, and when you tell your kids not to do something, then they do it? How do you feel about it? Not happy, right? So don't be the agent that gets told don't include an escalation clause and then include one.
I mean, if it was super attractive, I mean, it really comes down to the seller. If they're like, no, I want the extra 5,000 above any other offer, like.
I like that. And it really is up to your buyers too. If your buyers want it or are willing to do it and it is attractive, it can't help. Just because the agent doesn't want it doesn't mean that it doesn't count, and doesn't mean that they get to decide what offer the seller picks. So it's a good point, Britt.
Food for thought.
Inspection waiver as is. Does every buyer agree to purchase the property as is already? Yes or no?
Yes, it's in the contract.
It's literally written in the actual contract. It literally says purchasing as is, right? I'm going to read this first one. Buyer agrees to purchase the property in an as-is condition. Buyer still reserves the right to inspect the property with health and safety items being considered. I use this clause quite a bit, actually, right? I lost an offer yesterday to somebody adding this in there. Do we remove our right to inspect the property?
No.
No.
Did we remove our right to object to the condition of the property?
No.
No. Did we remove our right to receive a resolution? No. We only basically said that we're only going to consider health and safety items. How ambiguous is health and safety items?
Very.
Pretty big.
Huge, right? Oh, I don't like the paint color. That's not health and safety unless you can't stand yellow. I don't know, right? It really leaves a lot on the table for us to still have our inspection, still submit an objection, and still receive the resolution. Do we agree?
Yes.
I like this. I think this is something that sellers like to see. Oh, they're just going to buy it as is. It already says as is. We already agreed to buy it as is. But okay, whatever makes you feel better. I like this one here. Buyer agrees to purchase the property in an as-is condition. Buyer still reserves the right to inspect the property with health and safety items being considered. Is anybody using these?
I will now.
I will now.
I also
Can we
add to the end
remove
of
the
that being
inspection objection
considered.
and the inspection resolution? Oh, Thomas, what do you got?
I also add in onto the end of being considered, basically, that it in no way limits buyer's rights under section 10.3.
I like that. I think if I was to be honest, I like it vague. I like it broad. You know what I mean? I like it to almost mean nothing, because it almost means nothing. Every time
I'm
I've
not
written
arguing with that. I agree.
right. But Thomas, I think Thomas is bringing up a good point on the listing side. Should we be asking for more specific verbiage in some of these clauses that we receive on the listing side? Hey, I noticed you put this in, but it's a bit ambiguous. Can we get a little bit more concrete, idea of as to what this looks like? I think protecting our sellers.
All my counter proposals include seller is selling property as is, where is, and with all faults as in section 10.2. Seller makes no consideration for doing any improvements, repairs, or modifications of the property.
Love it. That's
so
specificity.
It's a communication issue. It's not, when I say seller has no intention, well, what does that mean? Again, ambiguous.
Right.
But I'm basically using it as a communication issue. As is, where is, and with all faults. Don't ask for anything.
Right. Well, at me as a listing agent, I do it every time. Hey, we're wanting to get to this purchase price. Include an as-is clause, and omitting the actual objection and resolution would be ideal. I already can tell you and I say these two things. I say my seller's not in a physical or financial position to make any adjustments to the home. Physical meaning they can't physically do it. Financially means they don't have the money to do it. Don't ask for anything. And not only that, when we get close to closing, it'll probably be worse condition anyway. Just kidding.
Like a flood.
Whatever, Darla. Removal of inspection objection and inspection resolution. Do we have an inspection termination date? Yes, we do. This is what it looks like. Can we omit an objection and omit a resolution on a buy side, and on a seller side, can we counter these items to be omitted? Yep. So what Thomas is talking about is countering and including the verbiage, or counter and exclude the actual dates themselves. With no right to objection, no need for resolution, there's no conversation. Hey, if you don't like it, terminate, sure. Even if they don't like it, let's say we omitted the termination and they don't like the condition, can they get out for other reasons?
Yep.
Totally. Loan termination deadline is sole subjective discretion. Hey, we don't like the condition of the house for the loan we're going to take out. That is sole subjective discretion. So don't think just because you omit this that they don't have other rights. And you can describe that to your buyers too. Hey, just because we omit this doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to get out. Any thoughts, any comments? Inspection waiver? Anybody going to utilize this in the future? I would. I lost one yesterday because of it. Well, and to be honest, my clients would have terminated. Anybody know Ed and Bonnie?
I feel like I personally know them by now.
Right. We wrote an offer though, and I tell you this: the property's asking price is $455, and of course we give them less than asking in a multiple offer situation, right? Come on, guys, work with me here. That's all right. I still love them to death, sweet as can be. Appraisal gap coverage. Anybody experience this? Use this. How are we feeling about it lately? Darla, give us an example.
I put in my old condo buyer again. We covered the gap. We were $10,000 over asking. We knew it wouldn't appraise, so she agreed to pay up to $5,000 in cash to bridge the gap, and she had to.
There you go. And she had to.
But she got it. She got it, and she's an accountant, so she did the math and figured it was more worth it than to not do it.
And to keep shopping, keep competing, keep losing.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, she was homeless by that point, so.
Well, there's a little incentive for you. Right?
Worth the 5K.
Worth the 5K.
Yeah.
And not only that, if the appreciation's as strong as it has been, we're going to recoup that how fast?
90 days.
Not only that, if we keep having to go out and shop every time we go shop for a house, the prices are only increasing.
Mm-hmm.
The house you saw today is not going to be at that price tomorrow. Let's get in and get it. Buyer agrees to cover up to $5,000 above appraised value in the event of an appraisal shortfall. In the event that the property appraises for less than the purchase price, item 1 in section 4, buyer and seller expressly agree to amend the purchase price up to blank amount above the appraised value, not to exceed the agreed purchase price above. How does this make the seller feel?
Like they're getting extra money.
They're getting extra money. What happens if we say we'll give 5,000 over, up to 5,000 over, and it's short 15,000? What does the seller think? Usually they think they're going to get the whole 15.
Mm-hmm.
I like the part where we've included buyer and seller agree for this. Not just buyer agrees to give you up to 5,000, but the buyer and seller agree to amend the purchase price up to $5,000 to not exceed purchase price. That way we don't have to argue about it later. Well, now my seller won't do it. No bullshit. Your seller already signed it. Seller already agreed to amend the price up to 5,000 above the appraised value.
Well, we had to do that, and then the listing agent and myself had to come up with, a couple thousand a piece just to make up that gap because it came in way, way under.
We still need the seller to sign the amendment, right? We need the seller to sign the amendment, and if they won't sign it, we still have to negotiate and figure it out. Just because it says it doesn't mean anything. Are we going to try and take this to mediation? We're going to put a Liz Pendants on your property over a couple $1,000s, or we're going to pull it together? The whole point of this is to work together to find common remedy and actually get these things closed and not try and leverage and win. So I think Matt's point really is just because we knew that we were going to do this still doesn't mean we don't end up in a situation where we end up having to still fight for both parties.
Well,
In
and
my
so I
last
have
closing, Jared. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Akila.
In my last closing, I think it was a 10,000 appraisal gap, but then my buyer didn't even need it because the home got appraised for that amount.
That's the best case.
It's exactly what happened to me in November. Is we went 5,000 over, won the contract, and it appraised for value anyway, so it didn't even matter. Yep. I also got a call from the neighboring property, which was identical, and we had looked at it. Same floor plan, had a little bit more updates, but it actually appraised 10,000 less than even what ours did. And they asked us to share our appraisal with the appraiser to try and help them.
Nah.
Sorry. And it's not my decision. I'll ask my buyer.
I do want to just say one thing. I really like this verbiage where it says buyer and seller agree. When I purchased my first home, it appraised low, and I had this verbiage in there, and the seller threatened to terminate. He was going to turn it into a rental if he couldn't get what he wanted, and we actually had to get an attorney involved, and due to buyer and seller agreeing to amend the purchase price to the 5,000 or whatever it was above appraised value, I ended up getting my house. Thank
There
goodness.
you go. Here's the next one. It says buyer agrees to waive the appraisal contingency pursuant to section 6.2 in the event that the property fails to appraise for at least the purchase price. Buyer agrees that that buyer's cash to close shall be increased in the amount equal to the difference between the appraised value and the purchase price. What does this mean?
Means they'll pay the extra money over
No matter
between
what.
the gap, no matter what it comes in at.
No matter what. There is no limit. There is a purchase price, and in the event of a shortfall, they're bringing it in cash. Which one's stronger for a seller?
Second one.
Second one.
Yeah.
What's the most liability for a buyer? Second one. No right or wrong. Hey, we've got one that says they're due 10,000 over. If I don't believe we're going to do something at 10,000, adding this, and my people have 15,000, why not just do this? So two good options. Any thoughts about appraisal gap coverage? Questions?
I would say you almost have to do it to get an offer accepted in today's market.
100%.
Are
Even if-
these, oh, sorry.
Go, Andrea.
Are these in CTM so we could just click on them and add them into our contract?
Most of them are, but I'll send out this whole thing to everybody just so everybody has a copy of it. I agree with what Britt said. If you're not utilizing this particular portion, why is this so imperative in our market these days?
A lot of money floating around and a lot of offers being put in. Want to stand out from the rest.
Our purchase prices are increasing so rapidly that we actually can't keep up with the appraised values. There's no comps to support the values that we're receiving. Remember, an appraiser goes out to help support funding value, not market value.
Right. Well, that deal I just closed on Monday, we thought about doing the appraisal gap, and I was just looking at the comps in the area that recently sold within the past 60 days and what was under contract. We didn't end up doing the appraisal gap, and the appraisal actually came in 9,000 over ask, over the purchase price.
There you
So
go.
they came in with a little bit of equity, which was actually pretty surprising. I haven't seen many of those lately.
No. I think we're actually running into situations where it's not appraising for the value that we want, the value that they need.
Right.
Jared, did you see the Denver Post? Denver housing market running out of gas.
I saw that last night.
Well, Akila, what did it say?
I read that too.
Akila, what? I guess give us a recap. What did they say?
Just basically that they're expecting 2021 house prices to kind of level out, and then with foreclosures and all of that, it's not going to be the way it has been the way the market has been going as far as price goes. So.
Here's the question though. What is the only thing that could actually level out our market? What are the few elements that can level out our market?
More inventory.
Love it, Andrea. More.
But it also, the article also stated that in our market here, we have sellers have so much equity in their properties that it's a little different from the rest of the country in that way.
Yeah.
And I think
They also mentioned that because prices are going up so much, that it's going to affect businesses as well, as far as opening or new possibilities for businesses because it's so expensive. So
right.
I don't know.
You know, I think there's a couple factors that are really going to. The only thing that I believe that'll help level out our market, Andrea nailed one of them, is his increased inventory. We have to see more homes to help support the buyers. What's the other big contributing factor that would impact a leveling?
Higher interest
Say it again.
rates.
Demand.
Interest rates. If interest rates increase and we go back to 4%, 5%, or 6%, it's unheard of. People don't want to pay that. Buyers will stop. It also will balance out what the rental market and the buying market is seeing. Well, now I can rent again for less than buying. I can't afford to buy because home prices are so high and my interest rate's so high that I actually can't, there's no affordability. I got to go buy in Pueblo now.
So my lender did tell me that the rates are slowly creeping up.
There's plenty of stuff from Pueblo.
Everybody loves Pueblo. I think there's a
Yeah,
lot of
they've
factors
gone
that
up
would have to
1 point
change.
this week.
I think interest rates would have to increase and inventory has to increase for us to see a leveling. We'll see what happens.
Nobody moving to Colorado.
Well, they can't afford to move.
That's
but
not going to happen.
Right, exactly. So your inventory versus incoming population is a balancing act.
I actually did a couple ads in California and Texas, and 90% of my people were from California.
Right. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what we experience this year. Here we go. Buyer pays title and closing costs. Sections that could make your offer more attractive. 8.1.2, 8.1.3, 15.1, 15.3, 15.6, 16.3, and 16.4. Does anybody utilize these to try and make your offer more attractive?
Yeah.
What's 8.1.2? How does that benefit?
Buyer pays the title for the title work.
And what's that cost? Let's say a $400,000 house.
1,500.
I'm going to say about 1,500. Right? That's a $1,500, right? What's the difference between 15.1 closing costs? Let's say a standard closing fee.
400.
For Chicago title, it's 370.
Yeah.
So if you include buyer pays 15.1, it's $370. It's better than increasing another 1,000. I think for inexperienced agents and unknowing consumers, closing costs seems like it's a big piece. It's not. If I split closing costs, we're splitting $300, $400, not a big deal. Buyer, just pay it. If we do all of these at buyer cost, here's association assessment 16.3. Why did I say be very careful about special assessments? And 16.3.
Before you do that, you should check with the association to see if there is one.
Well,
It could be tons of money.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
If the special assessment's tens of thousands of dollars and we agree to pay it, what happens to my buyer? Whoopsie.
You're in some trouble.
Are we supposed to disclose any special assessments up front? Yeah.
Yeah.
If we know of special assessments as a seller's agent, you have to disclose those to the buyer up front.
What if they haven't been assessed yet? What if they're just voting on them?
16.3 is only what has been assessed from the date of closing and back. So if it hasn't been assessed and there's a future assessment, you have to disclose that as a seller. But either way, that's still a future thing. That'll be the next buyer will have to absorb that. I had a seller, Jen Ward, once again, Darla, love her, right? She's selling a condo because of the special assessment that's coming, but guess what she doesn't want to do?
Disclose.
She doesn't want to tell the buyers about it. Well, guess what, Jen? We either tell them or I don't help you.
I had one that I discovered during the inspection that there was one that was being voted on, and if it passed, was going to be assessed the day after we closed.
Disclose?
It didn't pass.
Well,
I would have disclosed, but she didn't. She claimed she didn't know about it. She claimed the sellers didn't know about it.
so here's the question. If we know about it and they pretend like they don't know about it, are we in trouble, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Material fact.
Material fact. Right? I think that
It
that's
didn't
where,
pass.
well, you know, I think here's the thing though, them even voting on it, whether it passes or it doesn't pass, it's coming up. It
Yes.
passed today, but it's coming up tomorrow.
So Jared,
Yes, yes, Debbie. Or wait, who was that?
how do you
Deb.
how
Yeah,
do you
Deb.
how do you find out about the special assessments that are coming up?
How do we find out?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Call the association.
Yep. So
And
we have
I just found out by accident because I saw a posting down by the mailboxes. Should have called.
That's why I close my eyes and don't listen. Like, nope, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it. Don't talk to me. Don't tell me.
Yeah.
I have a question.
We're ready, Sarah.
Would that come up on the status letter? Too?
Yes. Or in the minutes.
You know, when do we receive a status letter usually? I mean, not till the very end. You know, I think that that's one of those things that we need to encourage, you know, this element to be investigated. We have an HOA docs delivery and an HOA docs objection deadline, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
We need to utilize that objection deadline. Who do we need to understand and identify the actual HOA docs and the HOA elements? Who needs to understand it?
The buyer.
The buyer, not Jared. Right? So that's where we have to challenge our buyers. Hey, here's the HOA docs. Here's the HOA contact information. You should check into any of the assessments that have been assessed or any future assessments that might arise and any increases that they might see in their HOA fees. I think it's the Landmark Tower over here. Their HOA just increased, I think, to $1,200 a month. Right? Is that something you'd want to know about in advance? Definitely. Buyer, I encourage you to do the due diligence, contact them, and ensure that those things are still going to be in your favor in the future. It doesn't matter if I know, it matters if my client knows. Any thoughts on buyer pays title and closing costs? Do we see how this could benefit?
When I'm on the listing side and I see offers come over and every single box is checked seller, in my mind, it's like, oh, you're just trying to stick my client with everything. You're not even playing fair or trying to balance it to where it's like, it makes me feel like come inspection, you're going to be even more picky.
The same way.
So that, I mean, obviously it's whatever your client wants. I don't know how many of you actually ask your client if you want the buyer or seller to pay for each thing, but I try to make it at least balanced.
I think us educating these elements, hey, do we want to keep increasing purchase price or do we want to do small things like a $1,500 buyer covers? Or do we want to do OEC? How much is OEC coverage?
Like $65.
Hello? Buyer, pay it. It benefits you, and it also makes it look more attractive. We're talking about a $370 charge here for Chicago Title. Buyer, pay it. It makes you seem more attractive. Your status letters might be more of an expensive one, a couple $100. Pay it. Us increasing thousands or us looking attractive is really what this tile's about.
Anyone know what the water transfer fees are?
You know, to be honest, I check none every time, and I've never had somebody come back and be like, "Oh, hey, we have one now." All of a sudden, and if so, what happens if we check none and there is one? What do they ask?
Who's going to pay it?
Who's going to pay it? And then at which point we usually split it, right? So if you don't know, just either cover it or omit it. Just say none. There's no private sales, you know, private tax, transfer fees. All of those just usually don't exist. If you don't know, put none, or if you don't know, put buyer.
Inglewood has a water transfer fee.
There you go. Using
I
and
had
leveraging
one in
earnest money.
Goodler.
Is using and leveraging earnest money attractive? In this case, I think it is. It says, provided the parties remain under contract past the inspection, resolution, or inspection termination, not resolution date, buyer agrees that 50% of the earnest money deposit shall be deemed refundable. Okay, so if we terminate after our resolution or inspection period, and we terminate outside of something else, let's say the loan doesn't get approved. Let's say we decide just to terminate out of the blue. We're agreeing that 50% of the earnest money will be non-refundable. Is that an incentive?
Yes.
Yep. This next one, it says, provided the parties remain under contract past the inspection resolution or termination, buyer shall instruct the title company to release 50% of the earnest money deposit directly to the seller. Buyer agrees that the 50% released to seller shall be non-refundable. Buyer will receive a credit for funds paid to seller on the closing settlement statement. So they don't lose the actual credit for that 50%, but it at least ends up in the hands of the seller. Is that an incentive? Yeah. I would say this is something you're not going to see very often. This is also something that's hard to swallow. I also almost brought in specific performance, right? But does most buyers want to know that they're losing money? No. I would say this one's a stretch. You know, this better be the perfect house. Right? This has to be the one that you're pulling out all the stops for. Any question about earnest money, leveraging it? Done. Moving along. Backup contract. Presented and executed. Why did I include presented and executed?
Because it should be signed.
What happens if it's not signed?
Not a backup contract.
Not valid.
Yeah. I mean, you submitted a backup, but you aren't actually in a backup position. What are the odds and benefits to the buyer? 20% of contracts are falling out. Is that true?
Yep.
I would say traditionally, if we looked at ours back on the market, it's probably not 20%, just because we have such low inventory. But for instance, Kevin on our team went into a backup position, and I think he's written at least 6 offers, right? Maybe 10. But he got one of them in a backup position and then ended up getting it. They got the property, went through inspection, and still terminated, but at least they had the chance. Right? It's not funny, Darla.
It's just frustrating.
Well, you know, at least we're playing the game. The backup offer is there to get that chance. I mean, the chance is that it could fall out. Do you guys want to stay in the backup position? At least you get the chance if it comes back. If you don't want it, we terminate. We get out. But at least we have the chance to get it.
Well, even being in the backup position, you have, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. It's okay.
Being in the backup position, people are still writing multiple offers on, 2, 3 different houses. So they might get that other house and terminate on that one, and you're in the back position for when they fall out for the other one.
Right. What do you got, Akila?
I was just gonna say I had an easiest sale. It was a previous client calls me and says, "Kila, I want to see this condo. It's only $175." It had gone under contract that day, so I called the listing agent and said, "Yeah, you can go ahead and see it and send me a backup offer." I did. The next day, he calls me back and said the buyer fell out of contract and we went under contract. It's crazy.
Just that fast. Just that fast. I like it. Immediate step forward, and usually within 2 weeks of the first offer execution date. Why is it usually within 2 weeks?
Inspection period.
That's when the inspection is.
That's exactly it. Usually the inspection is the biggest reason that we're terminating. If we make it down 3.5 weeks and funding goes right, come on. right? I think knowing and telling our buyers, hey, let's put in the backup offer, let's make sure we get it executed, but more than likely we'll know in the next 2 weeks. If we don't get another contract or another chance to get another property, this will at least keep us in the game for the one that you liked. And we'll know within 2 weeks usually. Benefits to the seller. I like this little note here at the bottom. It says, you're going to have to explain the benefits to the listing agent in some cases in order to get your backup offer executed in advance. Incentive to the seller, inspection leverage for your current buyer. Hey, use our offer as leverage for your inspection period. I don't care. Reactivating the property is unnecessary. What happens when a property goes active to under contract to active to under contract? What does everybody think of the property?
There's something wrong with it.
Something wrong with it. Don't want it. Want nothing to do with it. And not only that, what happens to the price every time you go and reactivate the property? You're never going to keep getting that same price. Reactivating the property becomes unnecessary and no more showings for the seller. You don't have to go back and show the property over, you know. Makes it easy for your sellers. I think reminding the seller's agents of these elements and ensuring that they communicate these to their sellers is where you can get it executed. Is anybody writing backup offers? I hope so. Hope so. So here's the verbiage. Obviously, Thomas, he's available if we need to hone this in, but obviously, you know, basically, long story short, we're saying in the event that the first offer, the primary contract falls out, we get to step forward. 24-hour notice from the seller basically puts ours full force in effect. Are the dates and deadlines specific, or are they even outlined yet on our backup offers?
No, just let me see.
Yeah, we haven't set dates and deadlines. We don't know when this is going to be executed. If you have questions about a backup offer and how to put one together, let's chat for sure. If you're not writing them, start writing them. If you want to keep shopping with your buyer, you can, but this is one of the ways that at least, you know, 20% of the time, 10% of the time, if you've written 10 times, at least you know one of them is going to pop back up. I think it's imperative. We're not doing backup offers. We're not helping ourselves or our clients. Listing agent advice and seller thresholds. Does every seller have thresholds? Absolutely. Price they want, terms they want, dates they want. What is it that they want? What is the listing agent's advice? It says, ask specific questions. Do you have any offers on the table? If so, where do we need to be? Where do we need to be to come in first? I like asking very specific questions. Where do I need to be to come in first? Sometimes you get the old, oh, I can't tell you that, right? Oh, I can't tell you that, right? I use humor most of the time. I'm like, hey, Darla, okay. Will 450 put us in the first position? Cough twice if it will. Go, right? Like if you can't tell me the price, will 450 do it? Tell me, go, right? It'll be close. Will 455 put us in first? Well, it'll put you there. They'll usually give you indications. Or nah, nope, it's higher than that. You can still push and suggest. Okay, you won't tell me the price. Will 450 do it? Somebody going, okay, fine. Will 455 do it? Will 460 put us at the top? Yeah, I mean, that's super competitive. Great, I just heard the price, 460. Or I should do 462.5. I think being specific and actually working, using humor, building the relationship is where I usually get the information, right? Well, you could tell me, it'd behoove your client if you would. Now, let's play a game instead. Would this get me there? Would this get me there? How about this? I want to know. I don't like writing offers just for fun. I like writing offers that get accepted. My clients appreciate me getting them accepted, and I appreciate getting them accepted. Here's questions. What does the seller need? Purchase price, closing date, post-occupancy, terms, and length. Do they need any of these things? What do they want for purchase price? What are they considering for a closing date? Do they need the post-occupancy, and what are they thinking? What do you think I need to include to be at the top of the list? An as-is clause, appraisal coverage, escalation. Do we want to say these things or do we just want to ask a vague question? I kind of like asking the vague question. And if you don't tell me to include some of these things, you probably don't know about them. Which also means you're probably not asking anybody else to include these things. So if we did include them without asking, we'd still probably end up on top because they didn't even know they were coming. I'm going to give you an awesome example. The one that I just won, it was last month that I'm closing next week. I had the lender make a phone call, right? Oh my gosh, they're so qualified. We had competing against 3 other offers and contingent. The agent calls me, says, Jared, the reason we picked you is your communication's been great. You've been easy to work with. We can tell that this is going to go to the end. And I can't believe you had the lender call me. I'm going to use that one in the future. I was like, what? You've never heard of having the lender make a phone call?
People don't do that.
What? I was like, I'm going to use that one in the future. I was like, I would recommend you use that in the future.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think I need to do what do you think my client needs to do to be on top? If they don't ask for anything specific, still include the elements in the items, but maybe don't ask if they want them. Or if they say they want appraisal coverage, well, great. Do you have one in with appraisal coverage? We do. It's at 5,000 over. Thank you. Would your sellers be willing to send us a contract and can we just sign it? Is that a possibility? Can you have your sellers and you create a contract and send it to us as buyers?
That's a good one.
Right. Hey, instead of us sending you something and you countering us, would you be willing to put it all on paper and have us just sign it?
Well, and I've noticed, like, once you get some agents on the phone, you know, you can ask the questions and a lot of them just start talking and divulging information that they probably shouldn't. But if you just put them on the spot, you can really, you know, set conversation and try to pry those answers from them so you can get a little bit more, you know, leverage on the buy side.
How would that work though? The contract would be in the other agent's company, you know. I mean, it has to be your.
Well, so in CTME, you can actually swap the names. So actually, Britt and I did it the other night. I don't know how I ended up doing it, or I know how I did it, but I don't know why we tried. But you can then swap. You know, if I go to write one, it would put me on the buyer side, is what Andrea's saying. That I would be the buyer's agent, and then the listing agent, right? You wouldn't. You would just swap over, put you down as the listing agent, and then include the contact info and data for that actual buyer, the buyer's agent. So it's possible. It's definitely possible. Even
Is
if you
there
got
a
to call.
listing agent that wants to do that though? I mean,
No. And if you did, great. But if at least you ask, at least you're trying, right? Hey, I know my buyers would take anything you guys would send to us. Would you be willing to write one? No, that's not happening. I'm not writing your offer. Yeah. But I'll tell you this: if you want to come in strong, come in here.
Right. Yeah, I think get that information out of them.
This is only maybe showing a higher level of dedication and interest. Whether or not it actually happens, at least it's throwing out there that you're willing to do everything. Here's an imperative piece. Can I stay in touch and ask for a counteroffer first? I said it. I do it every time. Hey, we came in first. Can we get countered first? If I didn't come in first, I still say, hey, will you counter us first? And I promise I'll get it to my buyers and they'll sign it. They do not want to lose this property.
No, ma'am. No.
Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Listing agent advice and seller thresholds. I think this, this piece here is really, the buyer's agent that doesn't do this is the one that thinks, oh, I can't ask those questions. Oh, I feel uncomfortable. Oh, what if they don't tell me? Man, I ask so many dang questions that I get it all. Not only that, I want to know the answers. I want to craft an offer that gets accepted. I want you guys to win and I want my buyers to win. They want this property. I'm going to do what it takes. Asking specific questions, getting specific info will help you guide your client. Does anybody have the client that won't let you guide them? Right? Hey, you want the property. I say you got to go here. And your client says, nope, I'm going to go here. Ed and Bonnie, I just did it 3 days ago. We also didn't get it accepted. I even called him back. I got his message. Hey, Ed, I got your message. You guys want to write an offer? It sounds like you said 450. The asking price is 455. Are you sure you don't want to go to 455, or do you really want to do 450? And he uses ambivalent a lot. Well, we're a little ambivalent about it. So yeah, we're going to do 450. I'm like, fuck, I'm writing another stupid offer. Right? Didn't get accepted. Right? Shocker. I think we have to help
Maybe it could be
guide.
a backup.
Right. Well, unfortunately, there was 11 other offers, and ours wasn't at the top or close to the top.
Do you ever, in that kind of scenario, Jared, do you ever just, because I would just tell them, like, I can send the offer, but I know you're not going to get it.
Well,
You're not going to get accepted because these are the other offers.
well, I think that that's kind of a sensitive topic. You know, that's us navigating the relationship of the client that we have. And also, when we become kind of argumentative or rigid to that their interest or their direction, it also leads to them losing faith in us. And it also kind of helps us sometimes. If I make the suggestion, I think we need to be here, and they don't do it and they lose, it also reminds them the next time I suggest it and you don't want to lose, we better do those things. And if it's in a situation where it's a husband-wife combo, sometimes the husband or the wife is being a little bit more rigid, and sometimes the other one has to say, stop. Let's do what Jared says so we can get a damn property. You keep keeping us out of winning. So I think sometimes just doing what we're told is more important than us trying to be right or wrong. So I'll usually do what I'm told, but I usually do it with at least supporting the evidence. Hey, here's what I believe we need to go in at. You guys let me know if you're comfortable. If you're not, you don't have to submit. Or if we do, the likelihood of us getting accepted is probably slim to none. Right?
Yes.
But let's give it a shot. I'm always willing to. Let's be honest. How long does it take us to write? I'm shit you not. How long does it take you to write an offer once you've been doing this for a long time?
Well, it's not so much about that though, because if you don't get it, they're like, Hila, why didn't you tell me?
Well, and I think that we did. I did tell you. I said that we needed to be here. You wanted to be here. We knew we weren't in a competitive situation. I was really just wanting to do what was best for you. But Debbie, did you say how long it takes you to write an offer?
I said 10 minutes. Even that's with 2 glasses of wine in.
That's you drinking one, doing it, and then drinking another one, right? Mine's 7 minutes. I can put together an offer in 7 minutes, right? But you know what I do though is I tell my client, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start working on this offer. I'll contact you in a little bit. I'll have dinner. I'll hang out. I'll write my 7-minute offer, and then I'll call you. Oh my gosh, thanks for working so hard.
I never let them know that it's a
No.
5-minute job.
Yeah, I do not either. But I've also been doing it for years, right? I know exactly what's in this form. I know exactly what you wanted, and I know how to craft it. I think that that's where we all need to be, but I think that we have to ensure that we remind them what it's going to take to get it, but also be supportive of their interest in the direction that they want to go. Us not supporting them is where we end up losing the client. Us supporting them reminds them that they lost the property. Here we go. Your lender makes the call. What's the benefits? It helps your buyers by increasing purchase strength. Hey, I love these buyers. They turned in all their docs. We're through underwriting, manual underwriting. They're in a great position. They have all the cash that they need. I'm a wonderful lender to work with. I actually, this was not so awesome. I asked my clients to write a love letter. And instead of writing the love letter, the client asked the lender to write the love letter. And guess what was in the love letter? Oh my gosh, our lender is so amazing. She's going to pull this all together. I was like, of course you wrote that. Which is also the lender that didn't have us clear to close until like 9 o'clock last night. Way to go, Melissa. What else is a benefit for your lender calling? It increases the seller's assurance of a completion of the transaction. It's better than a proof of funds. It's better than a pre-approval letter. This is actually an individual vouching and verifying the qualifications of the buyers. Just like I said, I got the one out in Brighton competing against multiple offers, and the agent even said, oh my gosh, thanks for having a lender call, which means I was the only one of 4 that had the lender call. I also was the one of 4 that got accepted. I also taught the agent that having a lender call is imperative. Well, that's a great one. I'm going to use it. It also provides reassurance for the selling agent, the actual seller's agent. I don't have to worry about this now. I already have the lender reaching out to me. I don't even have to call the lender to verify this approval letter. Have your lender make the call immediately with the offer and possibly another call on the acceptance review date. Hey, we're turning it in on Friday. Lender calls. Acceptance deadline is Monday. Lender calls Monday. Just checking in, wanted to see where we were at. I know they have flexibility and would love to do it. If I keep communicating as the agent and they can keep communicating as the lender, it puts us in a stronger position.
Yeah, communication is key in this market.
Totally.
From everybody.
Everybody. Love letters that help you win. Anybody have any thoughts on love letters up front? How does the commission feel about love letters?
They don't like them.
Don't do it.
Don't do
Me.
Well, the commission
it.
specifically.
You can put it, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go, Andrea, what do you got?
I was just gonna say, I just try to extol their virtues in an email rather than attaching some ridiculous, oh my, we grew up next to and all that bullshit. I don't think it's right. I really don't. You can extol their virtues in a concrete fashion in your cover email.
Well, I think here's the thing. From the commission side, they said that seller's agent should not present them to the sellers. They did not say that buyers should not provide them, but that seller's agent should not provide them to the seller. So as a buyer and a buyer's agent, should we not at least try?
Yeah.
I say
think
yes.
it can be discriminatory. I think it's a bad idea.
Well, exactly, it could. I'll give you another example though. Brittany had a client. I'm not going to mention his name. Arvada property. He was moving across the street. When you received all your offers, what did he do when you got all the offers?
He wanted to look up each buyer on Facebook and pick out his new neighbor.
So he was moving across the street. So he didn't have to have love letters. He searched their names on Facebook to try and Facebook stalk them to see who he wanted to pick as his neighbor.
Which is entirely in his right.
Totally within his right.
He still went with the highest offer.
Of course. Well, that deal I closed in Grand Junction, Jared, like one of the things that made us stand out, because the people that we're competing against, their like in-laws or something owned the house next door. Right. We were competing against that. So fortunately enough, I wasn't able to make it out there, and the listing agent showed my clients and said, these people are great people, I think we should go with them.
Instead of
we thought about the love letters just being military, but instead of like the in-laws living next to each other. So it was a pretty good win, but we considered doing a love letter, and I was like, I don't know if that's going to do it.
I think the thing is a love letter. It's just things to consider. Can it possibly increase the buyer's chance? Absolutely. If it's not presented, it didn't change anything. If it gets presented, it might increase the chance. Right? What is the actual trigger that we want to induce with the love letter? It's not purchase price. It's not terms. It's not dates. It's not. What's the win from the love letter?
Attaching a face to the numbers.
Totally. It makes it a human interaction. People liking people. Right? What if the person who has the home wants it to go to a particular type of a family, or wants to give somebody the opportunity? I think that's where, if my buyer can win because of it, I'd rather leverage the emotional trigger than the financial triggers. So I think.
What if they specifically state no love letters? Then aren't you kind of like doing it anyway? And
that goes back to not listening to your parents. It's annoying.
Yeah.
You also said don't put it in the escalation clause, and I did that too. They also don't have to give it. It's not in the contract. It's an attachment separate from it. So even if I do it, you don't have to present it. Here's the next thing to consider: is the buyer's agent. Is it the buyer's agent to discern, or the seller's agent decision to deliver the letter? I believe it's the selling agent that has to decide whether or not to deliver the letter, and not my job as the buyer's agent to be like, oh, well, let's not do that. No, let's totally do that, because it's going to increase your chances if it works. If it doesn't work, it didn't change anything. If it isn't presented, it didn't change anything. The terms are black and white. The love letter is the only emotional piece we can present. I also don't want to write more offers. I also don't want to lose more properties. Can an agent write a letter on behalf of the client?
Any, Jared?
I just did it a couple nights ago. Right? Hey, these are my clients. Here's their situation. Here's the boat that they're in. Here's what they're looking for. Here's what they need. Here's what we've been doing. Right?
I usually always do it when in the email. Just
absolutely.
I give a couple of sentences about my client.
Well, so in particular, Ed and Bonnie, we came in under purchase price, right? And the lady that's selling the home, it's a ranch style house, built in 1990, ranch style home, 3 bedrooms upstairs, laundry's on the main floor. It's got a 1/4 acre backyard, perfect little setup for them. The reason I wrote the love letter was because I already knew we weren't going to win. We weren't going to be the strongest offer. I needed the seller to love them as clients. I needed the seller to love them as people. I needed the seller to want to give them the property, even if the price wasn't at the terms that she wanted. If my buyer won't do what it takes to get it financially, I have to try and find a way that I can connect emotionally. I also knew that the lady who was selling was moving out because she was physically unable to live in the property anymore. My clients, Ed and Bonnie, are in their 80s and 90s. This is their forever home in their eyes. They need the main floor master. They need the laundry on the main floor. They need all these elements that are included. And I kid you not, it's literally around the corner from our house. Sky would have mowed your yard. He would have shoveled your walks. Let's do this, guys. No? Okay, whatever.
I need this.
I think that the agent can write a letter on behalf of your client. You need to be able to articulate the elements that make your client stand out and a little bit different. What to include in the letter and how to make an impact. I think that I always like encouraging my clients to include specific elements that are in their home. We love what you did with this. We love that you have this. We love the care that you put into that. We love that you built the outbuilding. Whatever it is that you enjoy about the specific property that you can tie to that actual seller is where you're going to make those connections. If you make it just about the family and just about the buyers, it sometimes works. But if you can incorporate both the personal elements for those buyers, but also connecting with those sellers. Oh my gosh, we walked through the house. I got one time because all of the art in the home was some specific artist, and my buyers knew the artist, and then all they did was ranted and raved about how much they loved the artist as well, and they got the property. I think any connection you can make with those sellers is what's going to help benefit you and help you win. Do you want to miss the perfect property, and are you prepared? I gotta move my screen. And are you wanting to continue writing offers? I use love letters because I don't want them to miss a property, and any chance I can give them to win, I'm willing to give it a shot. It's not my job to discern. It's the seller's agent to decide whether or not they deliver the letter. I've made the decision to provide it. It's the listing agent's decision to deliver it or not to deliver it. Any questions, thoughts about love letters? Here we go. Tight dates and deadlines, things to consider. Can you receive due diligence docs up front? Yeah? Are they usually included in the supplements?
I say don't even do due diligence. I think it's such a stupid thing.
Well,
people always give you those documents anyway, and it's a cleaner offer if you just skip over due diligence.
I agree. And when we're in a multiple offer situations, more dates and deadlines become a little clouded and not all that beneficial. Andrea nailed it on the head. A seller's going to give you the documents they have if they're going to give them to you. If they plan to not give them to you, they're not going to give them to you anyway. Right? Nobody has docs and then waivers. They're like, well, I have them, but no, I'm not going to give them. It just isn't the case. You either get them or you don't get them. I like considering the due diligence docs. Hold on one second.
I agree with Andrea. I don't like when I receive offers with due diligence docs deadlines in there.
Thank you.
It just makes it a little cleaner. I think it's one thing that we can omit that's unnecessary, and we can ask for it up front. Hey, are there docs to be delivered? We'd love to review them up front, and I'd love to exclude it from our offer. A 5-day inspection deadline and scheduled in advance if possible. Can we include, hey, look, we kept a super tight inspection deadline and we already have it set for this Friday. Can we say that and not have it scheduled for Friday? Totally. There's enough inspection companies out there that will get us an inspection by Friday. I do it every time. Hey, we have our inspection date set for this. I'll have the inspection by Friday. We'll have everything to you by Monday. Keeping it tight, I think, is imperative. 17-day appraisal deadline. Can we not order this immediately before we even do an inspection? Yeah. The day we go under contract, I can have that lender order the appraisal. They could get the call for the appraisal before we've even submitted an objection. How does that make the seller and the seller's agent feel to know that the appraisal is already ordered?
Good, because they know it won't get hung up in the end.
We're not planning on. What do you got, Britt?
Well, I think it would also make them feel like the buyer has a little bit more skin in the game at this point. If they've already paid for an appraisal, that's another $750 that they're invested into this property.
Right.
And it reduces that fear of that inspection period, right? Oh, we're not going to do anything until we get all the stuff we want. No, shoot, we want the property. We don't want the nickel and dimes along the way. We ordered the appraisal because we want the property. I think this is something that we can do that'll help separate us. And then a 21-day termination deadline at the latest. The more dedicated we can show that our clients are to it is the more benefit that we have to it. If it's a cash purchase, there's no loan termination deadline either way. If it's a cash purchase, what's usually our last deadline or last objection and our last opportunity to get out? What do we use?
Property insurance.
That's about it. Property insurance deadline. Any thoughts on dates and deadlines and keeping it tight? I think this helps. This is what'll separate you. Oh, we went with this. They were as is, but the inspection was already scheduled for this day. Including it, it's all transparent up front. They know what they're getting. Me saying that we're going to order the appraisal immediately and kept the deadline tight and we have the inspection real quick. Wow, shoot, you already have inspection scheduled. You're going to order the appraisal on Monday. Perfect. Let's do this. Sellers and sellers agents want these to close. They don't want them to be drug out. They don't want them to be difficult. Them knowing that it's already presented and outlined up front only helps solidify that. Send offer package. Does everybody put together the outline of the actual offer package? What's in the summary? What's included? Why did we include it? Highlighting all of these elements, including the proof of funds, the lender letter, having the lender call, including the love letter from the buyer, including the post-occupancy agreement, highlighting the escalation clause and what the terms are, including the appraisal gap, why you did it and how high it is. We included above asking price. We included the seller's acceptance bonus.
That's always important. Who wants to open the offer to see what it is? You want to just open the email and see what the offer is.
Well, and this is your chance to separate yourself. You being able to articulate the elements that you've included not only separates you and identifies that you understand what you've done and why you've done it, but it also helps simplify it for them. What if you have an inexperienced agent that doesn't get it, doesn't understand it? Are they going to ask you, the buyer's agent, to explain? No. Why not explain it?
Well, I'll typically do that with a phone call. Like I'll usually call and tell them like, hey, I sent it over offer here in the next 5 minutes. We're including da-da-da-da-da, so that they have like a forewarning of what to expect so that they can specifically look at those sections in the offer.
So you don't put it in your cover email. You should bullet point your cover email with what the offer is and all the other stuff. I do anyway.
Yeah.
And that's that offer summary. Introduce your buyers and what they love about the home. Key terms and elements that are favorable to the seller and the seller's agent. the buyer's strength and dedication to completing the transaction, the buyer's flexibility and other perks with working with us. My offer that I just got accepted in Brighton, when I was competing against multiples, mine was contingent, none other were contingent. I literally put in the additional provisions, because they're buying a house, I said buyer agrees to remain flexible to seller's needs for the replacement home. They then came back after we were under contract and said, hey, can we push out closing a month? Nope. Well, you said you'd be flexible. Flexible, what the heck does that mean? We didn't say we'd move it out a month. Them thinking we had flexibility allowed us to get the offer. Us, when it came down to it, not being that flexible didn't change the fact that they still owe us.
I mean, flexibility between 30 days and flexibility between 5 to 10 days that's a big difference.
That's a huge difference. Huge difference. I think outlining your email should be very descriptive. It should include all of the elements right here. It should be descriptive. It should be specific. Ensure that you highlight and promote each element and the benefits to the seller and the seller's agent. You only have one chance to make a first impression. Make it count. Oh, shoot, I should have described it better. Do we want to keep doing this? Do we want to keep trying and losing? I don't. I like getting in, I like winning, and I like getting it accepted and getting it closed. Any questions, thoughts about sending the offer package and what would be included in it? I think all of these things is really what's going to separate us. Just to review, market activity, we have to update our buyers with what's taking place in the market. Buyer contingency, we have to help them understand what it's going to take and have them prepared if we can in advance. Post-occupancy agreement, how it affects them, how it impacts them, the liabilities associated. You now become a landlord. Early acceptance bonus, how can this benefit us and what would it might look like? Escalation clauses, what can we do, what should we do? As is clause, are you still protected by using it? Yes. Appraisal gaps, what does this mean and what's needed sometimes? Buyer pays title and closing costs. This is so minute that it'll impact, I think, better than sometimes changing the price. I like what Britt also said about this piece here, is that it also shows that you're not going to be nitpicking, nickel and diming the whole way through. Leveraging the earnest money, committing a little bit above just to ensure that you get the property, giving hard earnest money. Hey, buyer agrees to $10,000 in earnest money with no right to receive it, right? Backup contracts. If you're not writing them now, we know 10 to 20% of the time you're going to get a backup offer. I've written 10 offers, I'm going to get one of them. Listing agent advice and seller thresholds. If you're not making the phone call to the agent and you're just writing an offer and sending it blind, I promise it won't get accepted. Nothing drives me more bonkers than somebody sending me an offer and never talking to me about it. Next one, lender support and funding strength. Love letters, tight dates and deadlines, and then packaging it all together. Will these elements help separate us in the field? Yep. I think it's identifying which ones are necessary, omitting the ones that aren't, helping craft the actual offers that the buyers get accepted. I think if we're looking at this kind of market activity, 500 new listings and 1,500 pending, I mean, this is tough. This is tough. You know, let's anticipate it being tough, but let's be prepared with the elements that'll actually separate us. Any comments, thoughts? Anybody learn something?
Yep.
Good. I hope so. I'll make sure that this gets sent out to everybody. We'll share this if you have questions, if you're putting together offers and you just don't understand or you don't know how it might work. Definitely let's connect. Let's stay in touch about it. The first couple times you start using them, it only gets easier. But I would definitely say, separate yourself. Use these to win. And if you're not, you can probably figure out why you're not winning. That's all I've got. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jared.
Great.
Very informative.
Enjoy the day.
Thank you.